So naturally, I think what they're doing is the one source of truth there is really backlinks, because it's a really strong indicator of a page's authority, where those links are coming from. Right now, we know they are super powerful. So I think it's a really important strategy to ensure that you're implementing in any SEO plan. To definitely make sure that you're building links at the moment. Yeah.
So you mentioned that having backlinks actually tells Google that you are a good authority website. How does that work?
I think it's a good question in that it's a loaded question. There's a lot to kind of unpack there. Ultimately, for anyone that isn't aware about how they kind of work, I guess you can use a backlink is any link from an external website that links into your website, and that sends authority across pretty much. So if you're getting a link from a very high authority website, really kind of simple example would be if you've got a news story from a major news outlet and they're linking to your website, it's a really high quality link. Obviously very hard to achieve, and generally you need a real world news story or something to achieve something like that. But there's lots of the way Google sees a website like that. Like if we look at like The Age, for example, Google has a score for The Age, which is how authoritative it is. It's very authoritative. There's a lot of websites similar to that are very highly authoritative, and they're authoritative by other authoritative websites linking to them. So it's a bit of a spider web. And getting links from those types of websites into your website is a way to improve your authority score. And ultimately that is a bit of a tiebreaker. So if you create two brand new websites with two different brand names, but both equally optimized for SEO, selling the same thing with the same content on each one, and they're both go to Google, and they're live, you'll see they're pretty much level in terms of their authority score. If one of them gets a backlink, that'll be the tiebreaker to put them over the other one. Is obviously scalable. So the more you kind of get for each one, it's also, ultimately that's kind of how those backlinks work, I guess. It's a kind of reeling on back into that small business discussion as well. You just got me thinking about that. Backlinks also work on a URL basis. So if you have a specific page that you want to really boost on your website, that it may be a secondary kind of page for a bigger competitor because they've just got so many products. You can really have a strategy where you build links to that specific page to help boost that, and that page may rank a lot higher than a lot of the bigger companies out there, but because you're really focusing on building links to that page, you're giving it a lot of authority, and that's a kind of way to undercut or overcut your competition in a way there. Yeah.
So we can basically compare backlinks and authority scores to the real life in the sense that when you are a business owner, it really does depend on how many people you know and how authoritative they are in the industry that you're working in. If they then refer you, you become a relevant business owner who can be trusted by other business owners or your clients and customers. So it basically works in the same way where online you have this digital presence where if you are talked about by other people and they're linking back to you on your website and mentioning your website, then you become an authority in that space. Would that be
that's a really good analogy to look at. I think I maybe get stuck in the technical SEO side of it too much, but that's exactly right. And it goes a few different ways as well. So you could have a very authoritative website, but they're giving out recommendations to everyone everywhere. So they've got too many outbound links. So their word doesn't mean anything anymore. You know, we've all got friends like that. No, I'm only kidding. But it's a thing as well. So if there aren't that many links going away from this high authoritative website, the ones that do go may have a lot of weight because, you know, they're not talking about it as much, but where they've got, now they've got a link to that page. So that's one factor in finding a good link, is that you're finding an authoritative website, but also one that doesn't, you know, send out hundreds of thousands of links a day because they're just diluted and they're recommendations that don't really hold a lot of weight because maybe they're just recommending everyone.
I remember this one time I was working for a client and they got a link backlink from a university, like a really popular, I think it was like Oxford or something. And they, one of the lecturers there backlinked to a blog that this person had written. Would like a university like that backlinking to you be a massive thing?
Yeah, definitely. So the way we kind of look at it in terms of how strong, this is obviously relative to how big the university is, but generally they inherently have a higher domain authority because they're getting a lot of their authority from government websites. So governments naturally link to universities, and it kind of trickles down. So the way that we kind of look at it, if you can manage to get a .gov link anywhere, that's like a gold mine. It's very difficult to get, obviously, though. .gov, under that, you got the .edus, which are also very, very powerful, especially if you're in an industry that has some kind of connection to education, even more so, but it doesn't have to. It's still going to be quite strong. And then we've got the .coms, and then there's argument about other kind of SSTs, which are the .ai, .io ones, which we've seen not being as powerful, but that tide is changing a little bit at the moment. But generally the .com has been the more preferred link there. But definitely if you can get a .edu link, for sure, it's very powerful. And there's ways that we can find them. We do have access to a few in our publisher network at Market Hub, so we've got access to a few to get. They are quite powerful. It's
been such a valuable discussion so far. I think people will get a lot out of this, especially people who don't really understand SEO and they don't know how to implement it for their business.